Well, good evening and welcome back to Sunday Evening Devotions. Perhaps you remember the childhood game Follow the Leader, or you've had to follow someone into a difficult circumstance, or maybe you followed up after someone who blazed the path for you. Well, that's kind of what our story is about tonight. We left the people of Israel on the east side of the Jordan River, ready to enter into the promised land. Moses had died, and God had said that Joshua was to lead the people into the promised land. God confirms that then through appearing to Joshua, and we find the exhortation for him to be of good courage and to be strong and courageous to lead the people forward. So Joshua, acting on that, sent the spies into the land, particularly into Jericho. So they arrive at the house of Rahab the harlot, thinking that they would be less noticeable there, and they could spy out the territory and find out what the situation was. Well, the leaders of Jericho knew that the Israelite spies were there and came, and Rahab hid them and then lied to protect their lives and sent their pursuers on their way while the men were hidden up amongst the belongings on the roof. She then proceeded to tell the spies that the people of Jericho were terrified of the Israelites, that God had acted on their behalf, and the people knew that. They had heard the stories of how God had dried up the Red Sea for their crossing and how they had defeated their enemies. And so that the fear of God was upon all the people. Well, the spies were ecstatic that God had already gone before them and had scared the people. And so they made a pact with her to save her and her family because she knew that they were coming, and she believed in what God was doing. And Rahab gets mentioned in the New Testament because of her act of faith. And so the spies return to Joshua and tell them that God had already prepared the people of Jericho for their coming, that they were fearful, and that everything was shut up tight in defense. Then God tells Joshua that he will confirm his leadership before all the people as they cross the river Jordan. The instructions were that the priests were to carry the Ark of the Covenant first forward of the procession, and as their feet got close to the river's edge that was swollen by the winter snows that had melted and the rains that had come, that the Jordan River would heap up. It would quit flowing, and it would heap up farther to the north of them or their location, and the waters would recede southwards and leave a large dry path for the Israelites to cross the Jordan River. The priests carrying the ark were to stand in the middle of the Jordan and remain there until all the people had crossed over, so that everyone would see what God had done. So indeed, this is what happens, and Joshua is acclaimed by this great miracle, reminiscent of the drying up of the Red Sea when Moses led the people out of Egypt, that God was now leading the people forward into the promised land. Joshua ordered that 12 men, one from each tribe, would take large stones and set them up on the bank of the Jordan River to commemorate this miraculous crossing. And also another pile of stones was set up in the river itself so that when the summertime would come and the dry season would arrive and the river would recede back to its low state, that those stones would be visible as a reminder of what God had done. So we see that Joshua and the people are prepared to enter into the promised land, that God had gone before them. We see, as we think about Easter, we think of what Christ has done for us, how he faced sin, Satan, and death for us. He went before us. And now we follow in his steps. We follow in the steps of life, the life of Jesus. Just as Joshua was leading the people, it is Jesus who leads us. But it was the Lord, the angel of the Lord, that had gone before Joshua himself. It was the real Lord, the pre-incarnate Christ, who had gone to defeat the enemies, who had prepared the way. Well, so Jesus now has come and has prepared the way for his people. And it is through faith in him that we not only enter into heaven, but we enter into that blessed life of knowing God and walking with him. Well, that's good news. Good night.